Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How do you do?
We are so excited.
So excited.
Because today we have our very first in-person guest,
Yes.
my dear friend, Jessie Nelson.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me, Rosalie. Thank you so much for having me, Jillian.
Of course, we're so excited. Okay. Jessie is a tarot reader and astrologer specializing in Western astrology. In his over 10 years of study, he has refined his development of a conversational style of reading that supports the opportunity for open dialogue and discourse while consulting the cards and/or the stars.
And/or.
And/or. Jessie first began delving into both tarot and astrology seriously while pursuing interdisciplinary environmental studies and music performance at the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. After graduation, he moved to Los Angeles in 2014 to pursue his passion for music.
Upon deeper study and reflection, Jessie began working as a professional reader part-time in early 2019 before moving to a full-time capacity in late 2021. After moving from LA to Portland in the summer of 2023, he's excited to offer both tarot and astrology readings at Woo PDX in the Kenton neighborhood of Portland, Oregon. Whether you want to explore love, career, or life in general, Jessie is open for readings and excited to converse with you.
Welcome to Shit My Soul Says, a podcast about all things woo. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Rosalie, and we are obsessed with anything having to do with alternative spirituality.
And we want to share our obsession with you, because woo is fun, but it's more fun with friends. I'm a reincarnation coach and energy worker.
And I'm a practicing witch, so we've been around the woo block a time or two.
Mm-hmm. Each episode, we will be digging into a different topic, from tarot to third eyes to energy healing.
We'll share our personal experiences and offer you practical advice for your own practice.
So whether you're new to all of this or queen of the pagans,
that's me.
Everybody is welcome.
No witch card needed. This is inclusive woo. We just want to laugh with you, learn with you,
and talk about some woo shit with you. So let's do that. Let's talk about Shit My Soul Says.
Okay. Well, I think that means it's time for the weekly woo.
Woo!
Woo! Jillian, why don't you tell us what the weekly
I'm
woo
going to
is?
tell you all about what the weekly woo is.
Woo!
So the weekly woo is the time in our podcast where we talk about some woo shit we've gotten up to over the past week.
That was excitement.
Jessie was having a moment about the woo.
There. I know what mine is. But you guys go first.
Jessie's ready. Do you want to go first, Rosalie?
Sure, I'll go first.
Great.
I'm going to try to keep mine short, which is hard. And it's a little sad, but it gets better.
Oh, good. Okay, we're on the journey. With
Journey.
it.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yes.
Okay. So be prepared.
Settled in.
So imagine little baby Rosalie having a friend, and that friend was her really good friend, and we have continued to be friends for years. Now, our mothers were also very, 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 very good friends, but over the years, for some reason, they kind of stopped talking to each other. It would be like, oh, why don't you call her? No, just kind of deflecting. And it was on both of our mother's sides where that was happening. But I was talking to my mother, maybe a week ago, really recently, talking about something completely unrelated to anything. And then she suddenly stops and she says, oh, when your friend's mother died, I called her to see how she was doing and to express my condolences. And her husband said that she didn't want to talk to me anymore. Now, said husband is now an ex-husband. Turns out he's a real piece of work. And it also turns out that he was deliberately sabotaging their friendship.
No.
And so my mother thought that her mother didn't want to be friends anymore. So she would ask about her, but she would never talk to her. And Her mother thought that my mom was mad at her because why hadn't she called her in so long?
Communication.
It's key.
It's so important.
So anyway, my best friend and I talked to our mothers, exchanged phone numbers for them, and they talked that day and had a multiple hours conversation.
Aww.
And it was like their friendship was right back to where it had been before.
Oh,
And it was this really
connection.
beautiful, beautiful thing. Now here's where the woo comes in. My friend had been contemplating allowing her father back into her life, where she was like, it's been a while since all this drama happened. Maybe he's grown as a person. Maybe things are getting better. And so she was having this thought when I texted her to tell her about this. So we both believe that it was the universe. And so, yeah, she hasn't talked to me about it. And so she suddenly started talking about it, apropos of nothing, and stopped my friend from reaching out to this abusive and manipulative person who she had cut from her life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the universe doing everybody a solid.
The universe was getting in it.
Yeah.
It was getting involved.
Yeah.
I like it.
So Jillian, what's your weekly woo?
Yeah, my weekly woo. It's not quite the journey that yours was.
I know mine
That
was a journey. It was a journey. And that was me really making it short.
Well, my weekly woos can sometimes be a journey.
They can.
This one's not a journey.
That's okay.
It's okay. So mine is a little snack. Mine's a little weekly woo snack.
A little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is just, what I was going to do. I'm an energy person, energy healer. I'm all about energy. And I was going to do an energy meditation on myself. And I thought, YouTube is my new best friend. So I thought, let me just do a little Google. Let me do a little Google on YouTube, which is crossing two different companies, but that's okay.
Actually, Google owns YouTube, so
it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. So I was Googling YouTube, and this gentle soul of a man comes up as one of the videos.
Was it Lee Harris?
It was not Lee Harris.
Oh my goodness.
But now we have our countdown moment for how long it took for Lee Harris, but I didn't bring him up. But Lee Harris here was invited. Okay, so it wasn't Lee Harris. It was a different gentle soul of a man who did energy work via YouTube.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it wasn't a guided meditation. He was there with his hand stuff and his crystal, and he was doing stuff as I sat there, and he's like, and it was cool because he was even like, okay, well, if you want this energy healing, you need to say yes aloud, you need to nod. And I was like, yes, sir. Yes. And then I sat there and I could feel it happening because I'm sensitive. So, and he had his little thing. It was so lovely. And it was so, at the end of it, I just felt so peaceful. And then the other thing that was really encouraging about it, he has 214,000 followers.
Oh, wow.
So that sort of stuff gives me hope, right? There are 214,000 people out there who is like, yes, wave your crystal in my face. I want that.
Please.
Please.
Yes.
And the little birds chirping in the background, his little Australian and New Zealand accent.
Oh, nice.
I subscribed.
Yeah.
I'm here for him.
And click the bell for notifications.
And I did click the bell for notifications.
You smash that subscribe button.
I did not smash anything. I held back from smashing. But anyway, I just was like, oh, this is really great. This is a real lazy way and free way for me to get some energy juice. And I'm doing this all the time now. This is my new thing.
Obviously, you're going to put his information in the show notes.
His name is Michael. That's all I remember. But yes. Yes, it's going to be down below and you're going to be able to experience this gentle soul.
Can't wait.
He had one on abundance. He had one on get people's energy out of your space. One on get your chakras aligned. Whatever you want, you get it.
Love it.
So me too.
Love that.
I'm excited now. It's your turn, Jessie.
Yes.
Let's get into some weekly woo.
Wow. Okay. Mine is quite woo. It's about angel numbers.
Yes. I'm here for
somebody
it.
Had to. Somebody had to. Angel numbers. Oh.
Perfect.
But, and like I've been working with them for a long time, so there's certain numbers that I like know exactly what they're about.
Oh,
and
I
you know
love
how
it.
other ones, they'll kind of like, they come and they go, like it'll maybe be
Yes.
months or years, and then it'll come back around. You're like, oh, I know that this was a thing. What is this? What is this again?
Yes.
And so for me, it was specifically the number 94.
Oh. And tell
Yeah,
us, I'm sorry to interrupt, but tell us a little bit for those who don't know what angel numbers are.
Okay.
If you can,
yes.
sorry.
No, it's great.
Just I want them to be with you here.
Thank you.
As we get into 94.
Yes. So angel numbers, I mean, I feel like they've grown in popularity in recent years, but they're basically the synchronicities. I think people are most familiar with like 1111,
Yes.
444, 555,
Yes.
888. And they all have their sort of various frequencies and meanings, and you can see them in the time. You could see it. It could be the number, the amount of money in your bank account, or it could be on a receipt. It could be on a license plate. But it's like wherever you find it.
The number finds you.
Exactly.
I like
Okay,
that.
thank you. That's great. Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then one of the ways it works for me a lot is I'm one of those people, I like to see how much battery I have in my phone. So I have the number clicked on.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I know it really hits when the time on the clock matches up with the amount of battery.
Yes.
Oh.
That's how I'm
That's
like,
super. That is like squared.
we're
I
like,
love that.
that's what makes it real. Like when they're like, and that
100%.
and it happens more often than you think.
I
Like,
love this.
That's
I'm
amazing.
really happy right now.
So cool.
I'm like off the chart. I can't handle it.
So I invite you and everyone, if you don't have the number, on your battery, your phone battery turned on, turn it on and just give yourself some little synchronicities.
Yes.
Get some messages, get some downloads. Okay.
So,
94.
What's 94?
Right. Well, so first it happened. So it was 9:31 a.m. and then phone battery was at 94. And then I checked again and it was 9:40. And it's still at 94. So I'm like,
Oh.
Yes.
okay, we need to.
Yes. Yes.
And it was just so monumental for me because it was coming as like, so I'm really doing my best to grow as like a spiritual professional. I think that's something a lot of us on this journey are constantly trying to navigate. How do I do this work with integrity? And then also how do I, also grapple with like surviving in capitalism and building and growing, my business, that sort of that fun stuff.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I feel like that's been like sitting across the room and we like stare at each other, but like it's kind of like, we like kind of look away like that person at a party you don't quite want to like connect with. And now it's like, okay, finally we'll talk, we'll chat, we'll catch up.
Yes. Yes.
And so it just felt so beautiful to be in this place of like sort of acceptance and even excitement of like, okay, I think I'm ready to really like lean into those next steps. And 94 is about expanding spiritual practice,
I love it.
especially in like a professional capacity,
Oh my gosh. That is so perfect.
I love this.
So perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
What a wonderfully woo weekly woo.
I love that weekly woo. That's so perfect. Little woo kids sitting on a bench.
No, this is funny. This is something about Jessie that you don't know.
Oh.
But Jessie and I used to work at Woo PDX together. And prior to working at Woo, Jessie frequently would just say, woo!
All the time.
All the time.
A friend once called me a woo girl. They're like, you're such a woo girl. Because I remember at a concert, I was like, woo! So I own it.
Yeah. So anyway, Jessie is woo in every possible way.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, now it's time to dive in to Jessie Nelson.
Hi.
This is Jessie Nelson, who, if you didn't get that from the intro, is an astrologer and tarot reader and has been on quite a journey. Now, Rosalie knows Jessie, but this is Jessie and I's first time meeting, and he's a delight.
Yes.
Facts. Jessie, you have been on the creator journey.
Yes.
I did a little bit of snooping online. You have had a story. Tell me about like how you have navigated your life to all these different places, because he also is a singer-songwriter. You have all of the boxes checked.
And also, No pressure. Just tell us everything about your life right now in 5 minutes or less. Go.
The one thing I was going to say, actually, I had thought about this earlier, was like, do you know who else is a singer-songwriter and a woo person? Lee Harris.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of in love with him in a non-romantic way.
I feel like I feel like I need to know more about who he is.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll do that
I'm
off
not in
the
the know
camera.
like that.
Just watch more of our episodes or listen.
Yes.
And you can also Google him because he's also on the YouTube.
He's on the YouTube.
On the YouTube.
Mhm.
I love the YouTube.
Smash the subscribe button.
Yes. But I guess to narrow down the question a little bit, like, what do you use as far as like, so you were in LA, you were a singer-songwriter, you came up to Portland, you were at Evergreen. Is there something that you use or that you tap into as you're navigating your journey of life? Like, what takes you from one, do you have something? I'm sorry, that is very broad.
No, that's a great question. And it's difficult to answer because I feel like the answer is the mystery, like just trying to surrender to, like what the journey desires, what the flow desires. I feel like for so many of us on the spiritual path, I feel like we can feel so strongly and be so aware of it. Maybe everyone feels this to an extent, but I feel like woo people, really feel like you can, when perhaps your ego, you could say, desires something, and then here's like spirit over here being like, oh, that's nice. Good for you. Good for you. And so I feel like it's definitely been this ongoing practice of, I think, just kind of like, not to sound cheesy, but like surrendering to the flow in a sense, because a lot of my life in LA was really wanting to make things happen in a really specific way. And even, and maybe that just wasn't exactly my entry point. That wasn't my journey. That wasn't my path. But I think I had this very sort of like strong-willed sense of what it needed to look like and what it needed to be. And so I would say it's been an ongoing journey in recent years. And especially in this last year and a half I've been in Portland, in terms of just sort of like surrendering a lot of that. And, just sort of letting the kind of like divine wheel turn in its way, if you will.
I think sometimes people hope or believe that when they surrender to the journey, they surrender to the universe or the gods or whatever they choose to view as their guiding force. If you're going with the flow like that, has it just been all easy, or are there bumps? Like, how's that?
Mostly bumps.
Yeah.
Mostly bumps. Yeah. That was great. That was great. That was a great setup. So has it been like super chill? No. And you know that, but thank you.
Okay, yes, I know that. But I think it's also really important for people to understand that just because you're surrendering and you're following the path that is sort of ideal for your life journey, that it's not always easy. And that just because you've surrendered and it's not easy doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path.
Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Love that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes, like, there's all of this potential for like healing and growth. And when we are committed to going on the journey, I think a lot of that stuff comes up.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my experience, at least.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, okay, here's something else you got to heal. Here's something else you got to get over. You can't just hide from it in a computer at work. You've got to like look at it in order to figure out how you can best be authentic as you show up in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's my story, at least.
T.
Cute.
Yes. So real.
Well, and what I also think is interesting is, it's like the right path, or, following the path that is sort of more aligned with your spiritual journey. And it is often very difficult, but it's difficult in a different way than it would be if you were resisting.
Yes.
And when you resist, you can really feel that, or at least I can really feel that like resistance from the world just like pushing at you, like you're like, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna do this. And no matter how hard you push, it just pushes back and can be really uncomfortable. So uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like this wrestling match that you're like gonna lose, but you're still gonna try to win.
Yes.
But it's like,
Yeah, but it can be on the other side of it can be terrifying to not try to control things,
So
right?
terrifying.
And what it's going to look like and what the outcome is going to be and how you're going to make X, Y, and Z money, right? If it's a financial endeavor at this particular time, to be able to just be like, to just go into it and not know and to just be able to trust what's going to happen next is really hard. But I also kind of feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's so much water imagery in all of that, in the metaphor of like going with that flow. And sometimes it can be a bit of a storm, but it's kind of like that undertow.
Exactly.
Can take you out, but it'll bring you back home.
I like that.
Thank you.
I also, when you brought up the financial piece, I think it's really important, as people are surrendering, as I've been surrendering to this whole spiritual process as well, it has been a challenge, but the financial piece is extraordinarily difficult for a lot of people who are spiritual entrepreneurs or people who are spiritually aligned, trying to find a way to exist in this capitalistic society and world where capitalism does not align with your spiritual values and who you are as a person. And so like figuring out that, like, how do you do that can be a real challenge. And I think it's really important for all of us who are spiritual and, struggling to find a way that it's okay to ask the universe for help with finances because no matter how much it might not align with our values, we still need to eat and we need a place to sleep and we need just to live and be comfortable. Because when you're not comfortable, it's really hard to be spiritual.
And not even just comfortable, but I feel like you're really at that base of the pyramid, like that Maslow's pyramid. You're it's surviving. Like, exactly. And it's like, while I would love to ascend and whatnot, like I'm tired and I'm cold and I need to eat and, can I afford my rent or this bill that has to get paid tomorrow? Like it's all, can really cave in.
Yeah. But I think the other thing that I really like to focus on is the idea of energy, right? Is the idea that if you're putting this is what I have read recently and I'm really focusing on, the more you're putting energy out, the universe doesn't like a vacuum and it's going to bring that energy back to you. And money is a symbolic form of energy. So, and there are other things too that come back in. And so for me, that's what I try to focus on is this, not so much so I'm getting out of this capitalist mindset or the fear mindset or whatever it can be, or try to at least, but to see this as like a cycle, a wheel that we're in, that if I'm putting the energy in, it will circle back around to me in some way, shape, or form. And I just have to trust.
Truly.
That's what I try to do.
Love that. So spiritual. That's so woo.
It's very woo.
Oh my gosh.
You
energy,
may have heard.
Trust.
Yes. We check all of the things in the recipe. Yes, but you know what? I also realized something that we didn't do, which I wanted to do at the top.
Astrology, signs.
Yes, because I think it's important.
Well,
I think it's important because it's what you focus on. I think it's really interesting to know who we are.
Well, and also knowing what Jesse's sun sign is, I think that like his journey and all of this is really interesting. So Jesse, what are your 3 big signs?
Yes.
Sun, rising, and moon.
Yes.
Wow. Well, you all probably already guessed it. Sagittarius sun,
It's a good one.
And then quick pop quiz. I was born hours before a full moon, so that would make my moon. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you for the pop quiz that we failed.
It's okay. Astrology lesson.
This is what we're here for.
So a full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. So with the sun being in Sagittarius, that means that my moon is in Gemini.
Gemini, communicator.
6 signs away, right?
It's the 1-7.
It's the opposite.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So every full moon, so for example, the Leo, we're in Aquarius season, so the Leo full moon is on February 12th. I believe, depending on your time zone.
That's a good little tip that we learned. Okay.
Yeah.
So Gemini moon. I love me some Geminis.
Woo!
I know not everybody does, but I think you guys should not be haters.
Woo!
Geminis are amazing.
They have their
Thank
beauty,
you.
their gifts.
They're fun.
Brilliant. So fun.
They're fun.
So fun.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
thank you.
and you're rising. So in this lovely, exciting blend.
we have, drum roll please, Capricorn.
Well, it's balance.
Thank you.
You got some balance going on
I
there.
really feel that Capricorn's one of the least likely signs to need a drum roll.
And for those of you who don't know, Capricorn, very hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
They like nice things.
Yes. I think we're also. I also have like half of my chart is in Capricorn. I was born in this very particular period of 1989 where Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune were all in Capricorn.
Oh.
And I also have Mercury in Capricorn conjunct the ascendant. So
Capricorn up.
lots of Cap.
Good for you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, I celebrate everything.
Yeah.
Now, Jesse, I would like you to tell me what you think
Oh.
Jillian is based on knowing her for like
Pop quiz!
45
Okay.
Your
minutes.
turn to...
If I get it wrong, you can
Contestant.
just cut all this out. Yay!
We won't.
Oh my gosh!
The pressure's on.
It is. I can see you being okay. Can I do a little bit of deductive?
Yes.
Can we-
Yes,
Of
we're
course.
playing a game. I'm
Okay.
here for the game. I'm here
Yay.
for it. I love this.
Oh my gosh! Okay, are you an air or a water sign?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you a Leo?
No.
You an Aries?
Yes.
Okay. Not terrible. Wow. And now I have to guess the moon and the rising?
I don't know if we need to put in
No.
all of that.
It's just
My goodness, that's a drama. No, I am an Aries. I am bossy AF.
Wow.
Not really. I was as a kid, though.
But also you are.
But also I am. Also I am.
And I say that with so much
No,
love.
it's true. It's like I was like, even earlier today as we were getting ready to roast it, I'm like, you're gonna have some opinions. And she was like, I don't. I was like, no, you're gonna have some. And she was like, okay, I guess I'm getting some opinions. It's like, correct. I figured that out for you.
Thank you.
So then Aries, fire.
Yes.
Aries is my sun sign. Rising is Virgo.
I knew it was in there somewhere.
You
I
knew it.
I was wondering where, but I felt
Yes,
it.
I get shit done. That's what that means. I have action and I have organization. I'm like the perfect project manager because I'm like, this is how we're going to do it and do it. And then it happens and the stuff happens. And then my moon is Taurus, which took me a while to be okay with. Like I had a Taurus journey. I had a lot of resistance to being a Taurus moon.
Interesting.
What does that tell you? How do you package me up with that information?
That's so fascinating.
I can tell you're taking it all in.
I am.
I know the wheels are turning.
Yes.
I'm trying to put it all together.
How do you match that up?
You sound like someone who knows what you want.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I go for it.
Period.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, that's me. I would talk about myself.
Now,
Because you didn't know he did say Leo, because we know Leos like to be all about themselves.
yes. I'm just wondering if you remember what my sun sign is.
You're cuspy.
I am a cuspy.
You're Pisces, that's almost an Aries. No, a Pisces that's almost an Aquarius?
Yes.
Okay, yay!
1 degree in Pisces.
Yay!
Yes. That's my sun sign.
You're an Aries moon.
I'm an Aries rising.
Aries rising.
You knew Aries was in there.
Oh, okay.
And my moon.
Virgo.
Yes.
Okay,
Look at
yay!
you remembering.
Wow. All right. I was like, I know. I swear I know.
There you go.
I've got the Pisces wishy-washiness with the desire and appearance of being really in control.
Nice.
It's ADHD. I've got some ADHD signs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That Virgo moon that's just going to be really precise about something.
Oh.
About something.
About something.
We're not sure what. But something.
That's where you get me being really pedantic about stuff, where people are like, oh, I think this. I'm like, no, actually, that's not the exact meaning of the word. That's my Virgo moon.
No. You're
Like
a
if
little
we're-
lawyer.
Yeah, that's
that that's not going to happen.
No.
Because that means law school.
And also being a lawyer.
Being a lawyer.
And being a lawyer.
Yes.
Being a lawyer.
Oh, poor Lord.
Not for everyone. It's a calling.
It's a real Capricorn calling.
It's a calling. I feel like... Who are we looking at?
No, but you've got all that lovely Sagittarius and Gemini energy. So tell me, like, when we talked about sun, talked about rising, talked about moon, as far as ourselves, not what they meant to the people watching, I guess.
Google it.
Figure it out. But I just, I don't want to dive in too much about stuff that is, people know.
I mean, we're not here for Jessie to explain astrology to us.
Yeah.
We're here to have a conversation that's more interesting than that.
Exactly. So what I want to know is, what area of the chart do you think is the most under celebrated?
Yes.
Oh.
And I love that question. It's a great question. And I feel like in recent years, I'm starting to get a little bit more of its shine.
Okay.
But really, I think it's the descendant.
Interesting.
No.
Yeah.
So that
it's
would
the
be
opposite of the rising.
Yes.
Exactly.
I know nothing about the descendant.
So many people don't.
Tell us about this, Jessie.
Yeah. So, the ascendant, also known as the rising sign, which is very much connected to how you come off to other people. In pop astrology, it's commonly called a mask, which I think makes sense for the ease of conversation. But the way that I've really come to understand the ascendant is it's sort of based off of the experiences that we had as children, based off of what the adults around us were doing. It's how we basically react and respond and understand, like, this is who I need to be in order to get my needs met.
Oh,
interesting.
That's how I really
Interesting. Okay.
And so that's the first house cusp. And then so exactly across is the seventh house cusp. The seventh house is the house of relationships. And so that's the descendant. And so since they're on an axis, the descendant is always opposite the ascendant. And so all that to say, there can be so much around the ascendant that's connected to who we think we need to be, how we think we need to perform. And so there's something very liberatory about the descendant, because that's really connected to if we can sort of allow ourselves to perhaps like drop that performance, so to speak. I think it's really connected to our love language and how we want to be loved in a really authentic way when we're feeling like we don't have to perform for it or like be something or someone for it.
I love that. And I've literally never heard anybody, any astrologer or any book or anything ever talk about the descendant as something to even look at.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think it is I think when you get your chart, you can go to like astro.com to get a free chart done. Well,
We
people
love
want to
Astro.
know.
Shout out Astro.
Yeah.
People want to know. They want to know what their descendant is. And I think there's a little squiggly sign that says descendant. Mine is obviously...
It's DC.
It's DC.
Oh!
It's not a
always
squiggly
just
thing.
like, what is DC? What is...
Exactly.
I don't know.
We don't care about it. So that means for me, Virgo, 6 degrees away from Virgo is Pisces. Pisces. What's the 6 signs? I can't.
The descendant. Like if she's got
you're a Pisces descendant.
I'm a
I see what you're
Pisces
saying.
descendant.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pisces
Okay.
descendant.
The only reason I know that is because I was born on a full moon.
Oh.
My sun and my moon are opposite each other.
Opposite, also full moon energy, BB. Love that. Love
there you
that.
go. Okay.
Yeah, what's opposite Aries?
Libra, which is interesting. So that makes it that much
Libra.
stronger because Libra is the natural ruler of the 7th house. So for you to have that, Libra descendant is very on the nose, very proper in terms of like wanting that sort of, like fun, creative, keep it light kind of relational energy, because that Aries rising can, as we both know, is very much warrior, very much go get
A little bit.
might burn things down to get what you want,
That has happened.
And then the Libra descendant is like, let's just drink some champagne and like, put on some cute music and do a little 2-step, so just wants to have a good time.
Yes.
It's like I spend all day, burning things down to get my way. Now I just want to
cuddle.
Exactly.
Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill.
Yes,
Twerk
I
a little
love
bit. Have some fun.
And then what would your descendant be?
Well, I'm a Capricorn rising, so another pop quiz.
You want me to think about things?
I don't know.
Okay. We're learning. We're getting there. We're learning. It's fun. It's fun.
I want to boss you around to tell me what it is.
Okay. Well, wish granted. I am a Cancer descendant.
Oh, so you want lots of snugs and love.
You really?
I guess I do. I mean, and I think it's a sort of thing too, because Capricorn energy can be so like relied upon. Like people expect that energy to like be there, to hold it together. The workhorse. You're also the person who kind of maintains a level head in the midst of like chaos. People, come to you, in the midst of like big time struggle and kind of want your support and like being the structure and holding that together. And so all that to say, I feel like that Cancer descendant is so on the nose in terms of like wanting your own space to sort of like melt and versus always having to be the container that holds. It's like, where do I get to melt? Where do I get to be water and get to be held,
It's so beautiful. Look at all these things we're learning.
I know.
We're failing all of the pops quizzes.
It's
but we're still learning along the way. Okay. You are into astrology, but you're also a tarot reader.
I am.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Ooh.
So what got you into tarot reading?
Honestly, that's a great. For me, it was always kind of both. Like I always, and to me, they're very much siblings. They have.
Okay.
So like, I feel like there are a lot of people who do both. It's kind of, to me, it's almost like akin to, I don't know if this is exactly right, but to me, it almost feels akin to maybe learning like Spanish and Portuguese or like, two Romance languages or two Germanic languages, something that they're different, but they have a strong sort of connective base.
Sure.
And they can support each other.
Yes.
And they both do kind of come from those ancient mystery schools of alchemy,
Yes.
So like they very much are siblings in this, the sort of ancient tools that were used, to sort of explore archetypes and whatnot. So how did I get into it? I always felt really connected to both. And it's interesting, when we talk about paths, because I grew up in a conservative Christian military family. So like all of this was very off the table.
Oh, yeah.
Like not allowed.
Yeah.
And I can remember even as a young kid, whether it was like flipping through one of my sister's like, YM magazines or like, like a Teen People or something. And there's like the horoscope. And I could remember being like, Sagittarius. Dad, how do I say it? He was like, Sagittarius, we don't believe in that. And I was like, okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. But then, I feel like I was really blessed in high school to have like really creative, artsy, kind of witchy friends. And we all and kind of came from these similar backgrounds, but like shared this curiosity. We were curious. And I'm so grateful that I was able to like connect, with souls, like, just being in the same part of the path.
Yeah.
And sharing that curiosity and being able to like nurture it in each other and support it in each other in a world that did, because this was years ago. Like now these things are much more mainstream.
Yes.
I feel like kids, can like go to all the things and, people bring their teens and like people, and their kids in for like pick out a crystal or like we'll even bring them in for a reading sometimes or like, just to like sort of expose them to the woo,
Yeah.
So it's much more mainstream now, but like at that time it was very off the table. So it was really meaningful to have, like people to come together and be
community.
like, ooh, like let's explore.
Let's play.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's really similar to my experience with tarot. I didn't come from a super conservative Christian family, but my family was conservative. But in high school I had friends where we would go to like the witchy shop that was a couple of towns over, and we bought our first tarot decks and would do like little tarot readings for each other in class. And I went to like Spencer's Gifts and got like a tiny mini tarot deck keychain. And so I'd have one, like I'd always just be like, I have no idea what this means. There's no guidebook.
That's interesting.
But shout out Spencer's Gifts.
But that's interesting because you and I read that informs the way that we read tarot differently, right? Because you are a much more intuitive tarot reader, right? I got into tarot because my mom was a dabbler. She dabbled. We have a set of golf clubs for a long time that got used once. She also had a tarot deck. I don't know why. She got herself a tarot deck. And I remember her reading my tarot cards, and then that was it. And then I was like, those are mine now. And so I gave tarot readings to friends in middle school and high school. But I had the little book, and and Mom had some books, so I would always go to the book to read things. So that is still the kind of tarot card reader I am.
Well, I had the book for my regular size deck, but it was the Spencer's deck.
Yes.
That was what I could like bring with me to school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had to learn how to be more intuitive in your readings.
I like that. I don't know if that's
I just
completely what the story is, but it was
okay,
a long
it's the
time
story
ago.
I've written. I've made that the story now.
Yeah,
That's
Thank
the
you.
framework. That's how we've held
This is Jillian being an Aries and
Yes.
you being a Pisces.
Yay!
Oh, okay.
Let me rewrite your history.
Sure.
This is what
Fine.
happened.
I'll go with the flow.
I'm interpreting your life for
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that interpretation.
Thanks. Anyway, that's our tarot journey.
Yeah. And I would say, so maybe you know a little thing about Evergreen, maybe you all know, beautiful, fun hippie school in the woods in Olympia, Washington. And all this stuff was so mainstream there in the context of that culture. So it was so magical to go from, having, this like couple of like close witchy friends we could kind of like play around with to going to a space where it was just like rather mainstream. And my first roommate, who I believe is like a really talented evolutionary astrologer to this day, shout out David Yarwood, gave me my first reading, which is such a blessing. And I remember thinking it was cool and like fascinating, but it didn't honestly like bite me completely, like grip me completely. I was like, oh, that's fascinating, but it didn't necessarily like push me into the rabbit hole quite yet. I think but it planted the seed. It planted a really meaningful seed. And then I think there was like, that seed of curiosity.
Okay.
It happened, and then I was kind of like, oh, okay. But then over time, I kind of like that curiosity just kept growing. And then all of a sudden, with both astrology and tarot, it kind of became this like rabbit hole that I fell down. I mean, I don't know how it is. I'd be curious to hear y'all's journey, because for me, I was never necessarily setting out to be a professional. I was never setting out to be like a professional reader. I found it so fascinating and so illuminating and so rich with wisdom and perspective that like it kind of was just this rabbit hole that I kept falling down until, suddenly it's like, oh, I think I'm kind of fluent. I think I kind of understand this.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I will tell you, it kept pulling on me as opposed to falling into it. I gave into it, and then I got out of it. As we know, Rosalie was on the journey with me. And I remember, I share this because I was like, okay, I need to figure out what my purpose is. This is when I was doing my HR stuff, had a job that made money. It was stable. I wasn't having to deal with the personal growth stuff.
Oh, lucky.
Right? It was very
so nice.
It was very calm.
So
it works for a while.
It does.
For a while.
It does.
And I did a tarot reading, and it was so clear in this tarot reading. It was like shouting at me that I had a spiritual purpose. And my response was, oh, fuck. That was not what I wanted to hear. I wanted it to be like, yes, go and just do this boring stuff. Be a normal person where your family doesn't get freaked out. And like, that's fine. It's fine. And I was like, no, this is not your story. And it just kept on pulling at me in a lot of different ways until finally it was like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's so resonant with what Rosalie was saying about how like it's, it wasn't like the easy choice.
No.
Like it, there was that wrestling match,
yes.
of that, but like ultimately, you had to find that alignment and that flow and that authenticity.
And to that point too, I realized like, you know what, let me just surrender to it and go with it. And I still try, I'm an Aries with the Virgo rising. It's hard for me not to over control things. I am learning. I am actively learning to try to just let go and just kind of go with things, because I have found that when I try to really structure things and plan it out too much, it's like trying to capture a river right in a box. You can't do that. It's flowing, and I just got to get on my raft and go with where it's going. And I don't really know if I'm going to go for a waterfall.
Yeah.
But I got to go with it, because otherwise I'm just exhausted. Or it's slapping me in the face.
So I'm actually curious with tarot, what's your least favorite card? What's your favorite card? Like when you pull a card from the deck, which one makes you go, oh, fuck? And which ones are you like, ooh?
Wow. I mean, I've tried to really come to see like none of the cards is bad,
That's good. That's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done my best to really like try to embrace all the cards, but I would say and this isn't a unique perspective. I think they're the toughies that a lot of people are like, oh God. But like, Nine of Swords, Five of Pentacles, they're toughies. They're toughies,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, if you're someone who's like healing from, difficult stuff or a lot of like traumatic experiences, seeing those things kind of come up, it's like, sort of having to look at that stuff, face that stuff. And
Yeah.
Could you quickly describe the Nine of Swords and the Five of Pentacles, just because
people
might not know?
Right. Nine of Swords is, some people call it, the sort of like waking up in the middle of the night card, very much connected to stress and anxiety. And it can kind of just be the sort of, little skeletons in the closet or the little demons that keep you up at night, be they like things in the external world or, like personal stuff that you're really grappling with.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like in the Rider-Waite version? It's okay.
Someone in bed. No, that was it. That was
Is that
mine.
it?
They're in bed.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you were like, "Are you okay? Okay, trigger
He
warning.
was
Trigger
like,
warning.
he was
Trigger
like,
warning."
I'm failing the pop quiz.
Oh, no, I can't.
And I was like, oh no, there's another pop quiz.
Wow. I was doing charades. Sorry, I was straight into charades.
So yeah, those in the audio podcast version, he put his head in his hands.
Yes.
And he was living the card.
I took it on. I spent so much time
he
there.
lived in it.
I did.
Yes.
I became her.
Perfect.
So yes, it's a person in a bed, complete with nightgown, just being like,
Yeah.
face in the hands, just
Mm-hmm.
scared, sad.
Yeah. Too much.
Yeah.
And then the Five of Coins or Pentacles.
Right, is the people in the snow outside the church
poverty
in the
wine.
snow. Yeah, it's also connected to like rejection, abandonment, neglect. Nothing fun.
No.
Really.
When I look at that card, what I see is the way that I view it is like, okay, yes, you are feeling the struggle right now. And it turns out that there's actually help and it's right there.
Ooh.
And you just have to look up to see it.
Right, because it's that stained glass window.
Yeah, because it's people in poverty right next to a church with the lights on. And it's like, all you have to do is look, all you have to do is ask.
Like that.
Help is right there.
Ooh, love that.
So that's my way of interpreting that card in like a more positive
That's great.
spin.
Good for you.
I never thought about it that way, but
that.
it makes so much sense. It's like, right, like sanctuary is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Love
All
that.
right. To remember that next time you get that. You're like,
Exactly.
yes, thank you.
I'll be like, I made this up.
All right, so then what is your favorite card?
Can it be a tie?
Yes.
Yay.
There are
Okay.
no rules here.
All right, great. I was like, I remember reading that question. I was like, oh, I hope they let me tie. Oh, yay. Thank you. It's a tie between the High Priestess and the Empress.
Powerful women cards.
Love them. Love them.
Yes.
And I think there's so much about that's so much of what we've been talking about in terms of the faith and the trust of the spiritual process of, being someone on that path, on that journey, and trusting that in a world that is not constructed in a context to like honor and support that. I think the High Priestess represents, because she's not just a priestess, she's the High Priestess. So I feel like she represents someone who's passed through, like so many rites of passage and has really dedicated to her journey and to like really grow in that power. And I just love that invitation.
Yeah.
I do too.
I do too.
Yeah.
There was a High Priestess that showed up in that card, in that deck for me, that reading. I can't talk.
But we know what you meant.
I don't need to be on a podcast where I'm talking coherently. Don't worry about that.
It's a woo podcast. They'll they'll interpret.
I'm
messages.
communicating telepathically right now because that's the woo world. I don't need to. We're just going to sit silently, and then everybody's going to just know what the episode is.
Okay, ready?
Fine.
Are we going to have that moment of silence?
I guess we just did.
Yeah, we made that happen. You're welcome. Oh. So, okay, 2025. That's the year that we're in right now. If you were to pick a card, or if you did pick a card for this year, what would you do? What would you choose? What's your selection? I'm talking to give you time to think about things, or because I just can't stop talking. I don't know.
Great question. I have answers.
Good.
Thank you for giving me so much time to think about it.
You're so welcome.
I mean, people would say, because it's a 9-year, so people would connect that to the Hermit card, traditionally.
Okay.
I do so believe.
Jinx.
Right?
All right.
Nine is the Hermit, right? Super professional. Yeah, it is. Okay.
I'll go with it. I'll say yes.
Yay. Thank
We say
you.
yes with absolute confidence.
So much
Certainty.
conviction. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, this is one of the other great things about being an Aries. Even when you're wrong, you're right. So
I love that you can own that.
I own it.
Thank you for knowing that about yourself and for saying it out loud.
You're very welcome.
You
This is
know,
my gift to you.
That's so brave.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm on my journey.
Not every Aries is that brave. Thank you. Thank
She's
you
done
so
a
much.
lot of work to become so.
I
You're a great
did.
ambassador.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I tried my best. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So I would say that.
9.
And then I
Hermit.
also feel too something around, I can't help but feel the star card, honestly.
Interesting.
Very positive.
Because, you know, we are in like Pluto and Aquarius, which is a
Yes.
really big deal.
We're going to get to that in a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah. And so I feel like the star card just kind of like shines through a little bit of light. Like it's a
Okay.
little bit of a, what's that word? You know, I feel like it's a word in like,
Just tell it
Literary.
telepathically tell it to
it's like,
me.
it's a foreshadow.
Oh.
I feel like it's
Oh,
foreshadowing, you know,
okay.
like a little bit of light.
Mm,
You know,
okay.
because the star Aquarius energy, Pluto, is very connected to the future. It's
Yeah.
seen as like astrologically, whereas Cancer is very connected to the past. It's nostalgia. Aquarius is very much about the future and our vision of where we're going.
Yes.
You know, and so I feel like we're really grappling, you know, with a lot at that time, and it makes so much sense. It's specifically Pluto, you know, like the most difficult planet that is sort of meeting us in that grappling space of like, where do you want to go?
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, because I know people want to know, what is your take on what's coming up next for us with this Pluto and Aquarius energy? I think there's other things going on.
I mean,
So many things.
There's so much going on globally and in our country, and it's really scary where we're sitting right now.
Mhm.
So when you say, like, to me, what I see is the tower, you know,
Yeah,
just like total
tower.
destruction. But what I like is that you're talking about, the star, like the hope,
The light that comes out in the darkness.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that you're looking forward, whereas I'm like stuck in this like fearful present. And I think probably a lot of people are stuck in this place of fear. You know, especially, you know, immigrants and trans people,
especially.
and anyone from the LGBTQ.
Whether you take the T out of it or not.
And I say,
Not to get political.
No,
I say immigrants
calm
is
down.
not just immigrants, but Indigenous Americans who are also being, you know,
all of it
detained. And yeah. So how do you see this star? Like, how are you seeing the future? Like, what do you see with all of this? Like, what's your interpretation?
Sure. So much with that. I mean, I think one of the things that's really important to remember is such a tool of the oppressor, such a tool of empire is this sort of emotional manipulation of convincing you that you don't have power, you know? And I feel like, you know, at all the various, and this is why intersectionality is so important, because that is what, you know, anyone who stands at one of those intersections has in common. It is the same person trying to, you know, sort of deprive us or convince us that there is no power. And so all of that to say, I think there's something really rich about, and, you know, Aquarius energy is very much about, it's about collectives, it's about community. So I think
community,
you know, like that's going to be it,
yes.
You know? And I think in like a really, really real sense of the word, like definitely in terms of our localities. And I also think in terms of our movements, because you know, shout out to like, you know, sociocultural and sociopolitical, sort of like liberation movements and, pedagogies, sort of like spreading that language. So like, and I say that all to say, so like people are aware of what intersectionality means, but I think we have to really live it. Like really, I think we have to really live it.
Talk to me what that means to you, to live it.
Collective liberation, like really being committed to collective liberation. I think there's a way where, you know, and I think this is where I'm wondering what the opposite word of what the antonym is for intersectionality. Like, what is the antonym for that? You know, because I think when we talk about liberation, we have to mean liberation. We can't mean a seat at the table. And I think that's where what it falls so much, you know, where someone who maybe holds like an oppressed identity, but also an identity of privilege, there's a trauma response and a survival response to want a seat at the table more than wanting wanting a seat at the table for the privilege that you do have, rather than wanting liberation for the part of you that is oppressed. And so I think we have to really come to make our liberation more important than our seat at a table that ultimately does not give a fuck about us and that does not want any of us to be free.
Whew.
Yeah.
I love that. Because, I am queer, quietly queer, as a friend of mine.
I love that.
Cute. My friend Olivia Waite, who's a romance novelist, she writes a lot of sapphic romance stories. Smut. It's very smutty. Very good. She'll be in the show notes. She put that on like one of her like Instagram bios or whatever. It was just quietly queer because she is married to a cishet man and I'm married to a cishet man. But, as I've gotten older, I've realized like, oh, I really feel more non-binary because gender isn't a fucking binary. So how can I be binary? And that I definitely find people beyond just cishet men attractive. But I also am very safe in terms of being a white person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a white person married to a white man. You
can pass in a cis heteronormative context.
Exactly.
Yes.
I pass. And so it's very easy for me to say like, okay, I am relatively safe in my happy little table, but the table isn't happy. You are so right. The table sucks.
Yep.
The table sucks.
Does.
And it's like, what I'm picturing when you talk about like a seat at the table is like an old timey like kingdom where you have like a castle and a great hall and there's a head table. And that's where the king and the like queen and all the people who are like high up sit. And then you've got all the like lower tables where the rest of the people sit.
Mm.
And then you've got like the people who don't get to sit at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, so I'm never going to be at the high table because I'm not a billionaire.
And most of us aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't.
Right. The high table is very exclusive. It's very small. And the rest of us, it's like, well, we're not going to get the best. That's always going to the people at the top. So we have to rely on their generosity, which I say with air quotes,
Yes.
for anything. And so it's not a good table to be at.
Mm-mm.
So I like that you're talking about like really finding the way to be.
To leave the room that the tables are in.
Fuck this table.
Yes.
That's what we have to say.
Flip the table.
I want to be at this
You know?
party.
But what we're saying is, leave, let there be a energetic ending in terms of our commitment
Yes.
to trying to get to this table.
Yes.
Let us commit to being there's actually nothing here. We
Yeah.
can sit like this is wax food.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, let's go build our own table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm speaking, so my background is in HR, right? And I got to the point where I'm working with CEOs, etc. And I see how the table is set,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like how quick so many of them are to throw out DE&I stuff that was so important because it wasn't ever really sincere. It was all like, oh, well, we have to be into DE&I stuff because that's what people want in order for us to hire the people and get what we want so we can make the most money. We're going to say that we're into DE&I stuff and we're going to post particular things on our LinkedIn for particular months without really it being something genuine and true and pure.
Yeah, like we've got our SEO covered.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We've got our box checked so that when people come to us and say, do you do any diversity work? And you're like, yeah, we do diversity work. And it's like, yeah, but I'm also seeing that all of our people of color are leaving the company and nobody really actually cares. So I'm just to say, like, I have seen behind the curtain because I think for a while I was a little bit optimistically, naively privileged to be able to say, oh, but maybe they do care and maybe, right? Maybe. And I'm like, they do not. I tell you what. They do not care. They care about how much money is going in their wallets and whatever it is that they need to do to get to that point. However it is they need to kind of manipulate the story, they're going to do that. And not all of them. Sure, they're wonderful people. I just didn't meet them.
And I love that you have that entry point, right? Because it's one thing that can maybe feel somewhat nebulous or kind of just like this thing we're sort of seeing in a very like general sort of collective consciousness sense, but to be on the inside and like see it with your own eyes and be like, no, this is how it is.
Yeah, it is. It can be kind of ugly. The stuff that you don't see what happens behind the scenes in HR. It's like, oh, okay, that's great. Yeah.
I mean, and we were even seeing, in real time how quickly they are to slash DEI, like
Absolutely.
anything, and they got rid of and even before this guy came along, they got rid of affirmative action. So it's like there's been this attack,
And it's just like, I can feel that there's so many business owners out there that are like, whew, thank goodness we don't have to care about D&I anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about that anymore. That's no longer a problem.
Like, apparently I read somewhere, I didn't read the full article, but I did see like a headline about Meta removing a lot of their like sort of queer stickers and and are they gonna remove like the sort of the melanin and the shades of skin from like the emojis next, like
exactly, stripping it away. So all of that to point out, like, this is a time. So Rosalie and I talked about, when we talked about in our second episode, because Trump had just gotten elected, we really talked a lot about the tarot card. And I was talking to a friend of mine about that recently. For me, it's a very quintessential tarot card moment in time where everything, literally, as we're seeing it all, things are being closed, things are trying to be dismantled. What I then try to do to focus on is that star, right? Energy. It's just like, okay, well, the other thing about the tower is that once things are torn down, then you get to rebuild. And I think that's why, and we get the ding, ding, ding for community, because you said community, and that's one of the words that is our theme that always comes up in every episode. That and Lee Harris. Those two things, community and Lee Harris, and ChatGPT, but we haven't talked about that yet. So we don't get to check out that bingo card score yet. But it's that I think part of the solution in all of this is finding the community, is finding the connection, is coming together and to create new, not tables, but places where we're bringing our energies together and our wills together and our brilliance together, our light together to create something new. That's how I try to cope, Jesse. Like, what do you use to get through this?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, and something that I think you spoke to, Rosalie, that's so meaningful is just the severity of this present moment. And it makes me think about, like, it's so easy to look back, I say easy in air quotes, but to look back on historical moments that were terrible, be they World War I or World War II, like, if you could put yourself in the sort of presence of those people's minds, they probably thought the world was fucking ending, and it looked like it, for many people, whereas now we can sort of almost look at it through this, this historical, like, intellectual lens, like when this was happening, when they killed Franz Ferdinand, and, but at the time it was horrifying. People had never lived through anything like it, and so I think there's something really rich again in that in that sort of star card Aquarian future oriented context of like, yes, there is perhaps this crumbling, but like the great historians have been saying for so long, empires only last so long, and I think there's just something about holding space for, what is possible in this sort of magical way. I mean, are you all familiar with the concept of Afrofuturism?
Only in the context of like Black Panther.
Sure, exactly, which was so amazing because those films really brought Afrofuturism to the fore in the mainstream narrative. So Afrofuturism is essentially this sort of intersection between like very Black-centered art centered in the Black experience, and science fiction, and sort of like liberation narrative, like revolutionary liberatory art and ethos. And so it's, and some of the greats are like Octavia Butler is known as like the great.
Love her.
Yes. So she is like prime. Like if you're taking an Afrofuturism class, they're going to teach you Octavia Butler. Or like Sun Ra, like the jazz artist, like people who did very spacey, cosmic jazz. I actually want to shout out a good friend of mine, Roman Lee Norfleet, who has this beautiful collective right now that's called Be Present Art Group. That's very much about the sort of like Afrofuturistic performance, and it's in Portland right now, and it's a really beautiful thing to get to experience. I performed with them last night, and it was so gorgeous, and it's such a beautiful invitation. What's so rich is it's very centered in the Black experience, but he does such an amazing job of inviting everyone in. Nice. And it's like spiritual to witness and be a part of. And then another close friend of mine, Jackie Hammond, is working on this really amazing autobiographical project that's also very based in like an Afrofuturism sort of creative lens. So I'm really excited to see what they do with that. And I say all of that to say, it makes so much sense that we're seeing that sort of rise in the consciousness because it's based in this creativity. It's based in, because I think another thing that we can say is another tool of the oppressor is to like smash our imagination, to smash our creativity.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Afrofuturism is so based in this creative, dream space in terms of like what is possible. Because if you could imagine people going back, who were enslaved, like having to like dream of a world where that didn't exist, having to dream of what it was like to be treated as a fucking human being,
Yes.
and like it was that imagination and it was that like creativity, and that visioning that they had to have in order, for us to be sitting here today. And so I say all that to say, and that's like when there's also like indigenous futurism, I'm sure there's like femfuturism, like there's different kinds of experience. I feel like I've like come across comic books and people with those sorts of ideas where they invent this, this world where like women and femmes have tons of power and are deferred to, and like things are very matrilineal, or, so all that to say, I think we all have our sort of entry points into like, what is that dream space to a future, a liberated future, that can lie on the other side of this, and, allowing ourselves to be open to that, because it can feel like the walls are closing in.
But I love that, because I really believe that we create first through thought, right? Everything that exists first originated through thought and then gets born into the world. And it's like, for me, and the way I believe, is that the materialism gets attracted to this thought and this energy. So as we're creating these worlds that we're living in psychically through reading, enjoying, whether it's TV or books or whatnot, we're feeding energy into that. But it's like we're birthing through living in that reality, whether it's in a fiction state or a creative state or a music state or whatever. We're existing in this, we're pouring our energy into this new narrative, this new vision and version of life and reality. And that must be born forward because of that, because that is what we're feeding. And I think that's really beautiful. We have to be so intentional about what we feed.
Well, and it's also, I love, because I keep seeing places where it's like, create and make your art and make your writing and make your music and do all this stuff, because that is an act of rebellion. And I couldn't quite see how or why, right? Because again, feeling like you're in this tower that's crumbling around you. It's like, okay, well, if I paint a couple flowers, what's that going to do? Right? But it is that act of creation, the act of creativity itself. I like realizing, I like understanding that is something that is being tried, that the oppressors are trying to quash, because creativity, inspiration, that
power
is power. And that's true power. That's the power that humans truly have, is the ability to create something from nothing.
Oh, I'm getting chills.
It's the tea. It's
I
the realness.
love it.
Yeah.
And I think there's this author named Trisha Hersey who has this movement called the Nap Ministry, which is really beautiful. It's about reclaiming rest. That's her whole thing. And her vantage point is specifically from the vantage point of a Black woman. But again, and so like a lot of her theology and her writing and her like creative space around the Nap Ministry comes from the vantage point of being a Black woman. But it's very much like for everyone, and sort of recognizing the way in which capitalism seeks to rob all of us in all of these ways. And so she's just very dedicated to rest, and so much of her movement is about that. And she has this book called Rest as Resistance that is about like reclaiming, and like that way that so many people in our culture are like, oh, I feel lazy when I like take a nap. If I'm not doing something, I'm a piece of shit. And it's like, well,
who benefits from that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also like, and then, the ways in which that's such a derivative thought of a culture and like a government that again was built on slavery, being, you know what I mean? Like getting that into all of our brains. And she makes this really great point in the book that everything came from someone's imagination, even that shitty table. Shitty table with someone's imagination.
Exactly. That was born in somebody's head.
And they know that, right? Like so it's like, oh, they get to create, they get to have imagination.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, and but what they're creating is a very selfish picture where they're the only ones who get to have. And we need, as the have-nots, we need to create a world where it's more about everybody having what they need instead of the few having everything.
Oh, yes. I'm getting like downloads. I'm getting a download. Because it's like, I feel like my guys are popping in. So I have to share this. Because it feels like what they're saying is this next time period is about us coming together in community and creating in community. That is what the new is to be brought forward.
Yes.
That there's so much power in that, whatever that is.
And it's so many things.
It is so many things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we are human and we are so multifaceted and diverse and just so multi-creative that we can create tables and we can create music and we can create poop. I had to throw that in there. I had to be vulgar.
This
You
is
know,
the shit that Jillian
This
says.
is the shit. Literally says shit.
Indubitably quite.
Yes, thank you. But yes.
Love that.
That everything, right, we're bringing forth into physical reality.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Yes, I am here for all of this.
Yes. And I feel like it's such a beautiful disruption of that like rugged individualism, like that American rugged bootstraps
I'm on my
individualism.
own.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
It's absolute
Humans
bullshit.
were never, that's not who we are.
Nobody is successful by themselves.
That's not how we evolved as a species. That's not how culture, humans evolved. So like, let's stop pretending that works. It clearly does.
Well, oh my gosh, I could talk for another
I know. I'm like, okay, Jessie is our new co-host. Let's keep
My
it here.
plan worked.
Yes. Just move in. It's fine.
That's my couch.
But yeah, I think it's time for us to kind of wrap things up because we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, we could talk forever, but again, the episode probably
Maybe
should
we'll do
only
a
be
part
6
two.
minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a part 2, correct. Facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we usually end our show by talking about intentions for the coming time period until we record again. And we often talk about the intentions that we had and how those went.
Oh gosh. Now I have to try to remember what mine was.
I don't remember what-
Oh, I remember something.
I remember what mine was. I'll
You go.
So mine was to be patient. It was to have patience because we were going into like holiday stuff and my son being home for 2 weeks and, you know, not having childcare and so just having patience. And I would like to say that I did well, but in reality, everybody got sick. I got sick. I was sick as a dog. But yeah, so can I say that I was patient? No, but I wasn't not patient either.
Okay.
I just
All
was
right,
sick.
we'll take the win. You got rest time.
Yeah.
I remember
Forced
what
rest.
mine was. Mine was about clearing out the old.
Yes.
As it was it was just before New Year's. And the thing that was interesting about it is it ended up being clearing out like emotional stuff. Like I just meant like getting my task list cleared out, which, you know, I did for the most part. But there was also like this like emotional clearing out of some old baggage as well.
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
So who wants to go first with their intention for the next month or so until we record again? Or for you the next?
I'll keep it simple. Keep it real simple. I think it's something about just continually like trusting into that angel number 94 and what that means for me.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like there's like this, you know, sort of open vista where like, you know, you have the idea, but it's like I'm still very much on that path of discovering what's there. So I would say just continually sort of trusting that.
Love it.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. I get to talk now.
Yay! Finally.
I know I've been so quiet this whole time.
I know, you didn't talk for like,
Yeah.
10 whole
I
seconds?
love being in the center of the table. No, I'm going to be inspired by this conversation. Hi. Hello.
I was taking your seat at the table.
Yes. Take my seat at the table. I'm going to be inspired by this whole conversation, or not the whole conversation, because we talked about a lot of different things, but where we kind of landed, and it's around community. So one of the things that I talked to Rosalie about, I'm going to bring you all in, but especially you, Jessie. I decided I got hit by like inspiration, and so I started a PDX Spiritpreneurs group.
For those of you who don't know, PDX is the airport code for Portland, Oregon, and people who live here use it to
PDX.
Shorthand.
It's shorthand. Yeah.
So the idea is about bringing together a community of spiritual entrepreneurs and helping us learn more about being spiritual entrepreneurs and how to navigate, like what we were talking about earlier, the world of business and making money and doing all the marketing while still being authentic and true to ourselves and doing it in a way that's spiritual, right? What does the spiritual version of being an entrepreneur look like? And not the capitalist version. Like we need to bring in this new version. So my intention is to put some more energy into growing that group.
Amen.
Love it.
That's what I'm going to say, since that's what apparently my guys are saying we're supposed to do is grow more community. And that is what my calling is in that area.
Love it.
Get my Aries Virgo going on this one.
So would it be.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so my intention for the next couple weeks, month, whatever, is that I'm going to allow myself to have that creative freedom that has been feeling really stuck. I have so many ideas about things that I want to be creating, including stuff for my business, but also just making new forms of art for me and just exploring different avenues. And so just really allowing that creativity to flow through and focusing on the star instead of the collapsing tower. You know, the tower's collapsed just enough that I can see the star glimmering off in the sky. And I want to focus on that and allow myself to blossom in a creative way and birth new ideas and new things.
I love
Amen.
it.
Yeah.
Here for that.
Okay.
Now, before we wrap, Jesse, people can work with you. They can get their Terry's.
Tarots and astrologies. I see what you did.
Yes, I'm blending.
Astrologies.
I'm merging. You can do tarot readings. You can do astrology readings. How can people work with you and get a hold of you?
That is such a great question. So for those who are locale, I'm located at Woo PDX in the Kenton neighborhood of North Portland. It's a great little shop, sweet little shop owned by the amazing Lauren Krieger. So if you're locale, and then, in terms of doing remote things, so I'm beginning. So hopefully, come part due, I will have all of the really fancy, very professional things together. But as of right now, you can just hit me up on Instagram.
Okay. You're letting people flow to you.
You could flow to me. At Drifter Shapeshifter, which is my music moniker because I also do music. Again, I'm still working on building what it's going to look like.
Yeah, you've got it in your brain, and you're
Yes.
letting the material world come to it.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
And share with us once you have more of that presence so we can update our show notes.
Mhm.
Yes. Absolutely.
So right now, as of the recording, Instagram or Woo PDX are how you can get a hold of Jesse, but maybe in the future he'll have a whole beautiful website or whatever.
Yes.
Coming soon.
We will make sure you have a way to get a hold of Jesse and his brilliance.
Yes.
Yay.
And as somebody who's had tarot readings and astrology readings from Jesse, I can say with absolute honesty that he is amazing and compassionate, and readings with him are fun. And we worked at Woo PDX together, and a lot of times I would be the person at the cash wrap while people would have readings with Jesse, and I could hear laughter and just joy emanating from there. Even when people were having major emotional issues and crises, they always left feeling a little bit better. So I highly recommend Jesse as a reader.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Rosalie, that's so kind. Thank you. And one last thing I'll say too is you can also book online. Even if you're not local, you can book online through the shop at woopdx.com, and we can figure out a FaceTime Zoom situation. So that's also an option. So,
Love
there's
it.
options. There's options.
Yes, there's always a way.
There's always a way.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, Jesse, thank you so much
Thank
for coming.
you.
We love
appreciate
you.
it. We love you.
I mean,
it's been great.
When you came in, I said we love you because I knew Jillian would.
Yes. I already knew I did.
And now I can say with absolute confidence, we love you.
I love you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
It's been
thanks for coming.
It's been so much.
On that note,
On that note,
do your woo.
yes, do your will.
And tell us, what shit does your soul say?
Yes, what shit does your soul say?
Bye!